My name is Dana Monroe. I'm 33, a marketing director in Austin, Texas, and by all appearances, I live the kind of life people write newsletters about. Six-figure salary, paid-off townhouse near Zilker Park. A dog named Baxter has his own Instagram account. Emergency savings, travel points, closet organized by color. But none of those things have ever stopped the ache that comes from being treated like a bank before a daughter. It's strange how easy it is to slip into a role. For me, that role started when I was 22, just 3 months into my first real job. My mother, Paula, called me crying. "Your father's unemployment got denied again. We're 2 months behind on rent. Can you send $1,000, baby? Just this once." That once never ended. My father, Warren Monroe, was a former electrician turned poker junkie. After hurting his back on a job, he stopped working and started investing, which was just code for placing reckless bets online. My mom, Paula, worked part-time as a cashier at a thrift shop, but spent most of her energy writing long woe-is-me posts on Facebook and defending Warren's laziness with biblical quotes and tearful guilt. Then there was Rachel, my little sister. 4 years younger, more charming than responsible, and constantly trying something new. One day, it was a candle-making business. Next, she was studying to become a dental hygienist. By the time she was 25, she'd been fired from 6 jobs and had managed to move back in with our parents twice. I, on the other hand, had always been the one who colored inside the lines. When Dad spent our grocery money on scratch-offs, I skipped lunch and brought home coins from soda machines. When Rachel slammed her door after failing her chemistry final, I was up till 3 a.m. helping her write an apology email to her professor, only for her to ghost the class the next day. I put myself through UT Austin with scholarships and triple shifts as a campus tour guide. I rented textbooks. I donated plasma. I skipped spring break and instead worked overtime at an internship that later offered me a full-time job. I did everything by the book, not because I wanted perfection, but because I couldn't afford to fall. And maybe that's why I didn't say no when Paula asked the second time, or the third, or the 20th. It wasn't just rent anymore, it became everything. Rachel's flat tire before a big job interview. Dad's forgotten insurance premium. Mom's emergency dental work. Each time they asked, it was urgent. Each time they'd say, "You're the only one who's made it. Help your family, Dana." And I did. To the tune of $2,800 some months. Quietly, reluctantly, always with the hope that maybe, just maybe, this would be the last time. That they'd finally get their act together. Instead, I became their plan. I paid for everything from Thanksgiving turkey to Rachel's rent to Dad's loan repayments that never repaid anything. I was the default credit card behind every celebration, every gift, every utility bill. And when I hesitated, the guilt came faster than the ask. "You can buy yourself a $300 purse, but can't help your father," my mom once texted me. Rachel told me, sometimes I believed it. Last year I spent over $3 I bought a flight from Austin to Tulsa, stayed at a hotel because their house was filled with it. I ordered a Monroe robe for Mom, a blue check, a designer wallet for Rachel. She posted on They smiled for the photos, but no one said thank you. Not in the group chat. Not to my face. Not even a text afterward. But they all tagged me in posts. Family means everything, one read with my face in the background, blurred holding a dish I'd cooked. And still, I stayed quiet. I told myself, it's just once a year. At least they're together. That counts for something, right? But with every transfer, I felt less like a daughter and more like an ATM with a functioning Wi-Fi signal. My name only lit up their phones when something needed fixing. My voice only got a response when it came attached to a confirmation number. One time when I didn't reply fast enough, Rachel messaged, "If you're not going to be part of this family, just say it." I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at the mirror above my kitchen sink and asked the question I hadn't let myself say out loud in a decade. What if they only loved me for the money? The thought shook me like ice water. It clung to me, even as I went back to work and sat through board meetings and performance reviews, even as I won awards and bonuses, even as my LinkedIn glowed with new titles and achievements. At night, it echoed louder. Was I doing all of this just to keep people in my life who didn't care about me? Only what I could provide. I kept dismissing it, telling myself it was just stress, that every family had their flaws, that maybe deep down they did appreciate me. Maybe they just didn't know how to show it. But then, December came, and everything fell apart. It started with a text from my mom, Paula, on the 10th of December. "Sweetheart, your dad's in bad shape with the credit cards again, and Rachel's been late on rent. I hate to ask, but we may need to cancel Christmas this year. It breaks my heart." Then came Rachel piling on 2 minutes later. "Just found out I'm working double shifts at the store all holiday week. Might not even get to celebrate. Worst timing ever." I was stirring hot cocoa on my stove when the messages came in. I remember staring at them while the milk bubbled, thinking how oddly synchronized they were, like lines rehearsed for a school play. Still, I tried to be decent. I offered to come by with some food and a few small gifts. Nothing extravagant. Paula responded immediately, "No, baby. That would feel like charity. We appreciate the thought, but let's just let this year pass. We can try again next time." My dad chimed in hours later, short and cold. "We're adults. We need to handle our mess. Don't keep thinking you're here to rescue everyone." And there it was. After nearly a decade of bending backward, I was finally hearing them refuse. Not my help me. A hollow opened up in my chest that night, one I tried to quiet with Christmas music and cheap wine. I baked cookies alone, still holding on to some fading tradition. I even packed up a gift basket with modest things items I chose carefully with real thought. A warm beige scarf for Mom. A vintage watch repair kit for Dad. A gift card for Rachel's favorite makeup store. And a small batch of gingerbread cookies I had shaped into stars and trees with trembling hands. I wrote a note that simply said, "This isn't pity, just a bit of holiday spirit. Whether you want to see me or not, I still love you." On the 23rd of December, I texted before heading over. "I'm stopping by. No pressure to open the door. I'll leave the basket on the porch if you're busy." Within minutes, the reply came. "Dad's going to look at a house. Mom's at the pharmacy. Rachel's got an evening shift. We may not be home at all. Just leave it outside." It didn't make sense. All of them gone. At the same time, on a cold Saturday, a chill ran down my spine. I opened the location sharing app I had set up years ago for picking up Rachel during college. I hadn't looked at it in months. There they were, all three of them, at the house. I sat in the car a block away, gripping the wheel, watching the windows through bare winter trees. Yellow light glowed behind the curtains. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't knock. I just walked up, placed the basket on the steps, and left. They didn't text. They didn't call. They didn't even send a thumbs-up emoji. That night, I sat by my tree, with the lights blinking softly, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender detergent. I tried to convince myself that maybe this quiet was healing. Maybe they needed space. Maybe I did too. Then came Christmas Eve. I was sipping mulled wine when my phone buzzed. Rachel had gone live on Instagram. Curious, more than concerned, I tapped the screen and froze. Rachel stood in a living room. Their living room. But not the cluttered, dusty one I'd visited just a year ago. This room had been transformed, brand new leather couches, glittering LED lights, fresh wreaths, and a tree so tall it nearly touched the ceiling. Glass ornaments sparkled like they came straight from a designer catalog. "Merry Christmas, y'all," Rachel beamed, spinning the camera around. There was a long candlelit table lined with charcuterie boards, a full turkey fine wine, and gold-rimmed glasses. A guy with headphones was DJing in the corner. Music pulsed in the background. Then came the faces: my mother hair done and lipstick perfect. My father wearing a new sweater, holding a drink, laughing with Uncle Jerry from Dallas, who had supposedly been too broke to travel. Mom say something. Rachel called. "Merry Christmas. We're so happy to have family here," Paula said, waving. "Who needs anything else?" Right. The next moment will live in my memory forever. Rachel leaned close to the camera, lowered her voice, and smirked. "Shh. Don't tell Dana. She thinks we're broke. Let her believe that." Laughter burst off camera. "As long as she keeps sending that sweet, sweet money." I didn't cry. Not at first. I just sat there stunned, as the comments flowed in, friends sending hearts and laughing emojis. The music played on like nothing had happened. I closed the stream, then slowly I opened my bank app. The 1st of December transfer $3. The 9th of December $450 for Rachel. More charges, bills, repairs, all of it funded by me. My fingers trembled as I clicked through the history. Every dollar now felt like a receipt stamped with betrayal. I opened my mom's Facebook. She'd posted photos, wine bottles, boxes wrapped in gold foil. One caption read, "Christmas is about choosing who truly deserves a place at your table." I almost laughed. I stood up, opened my laptop, and began gathering everything: screenshots, bank statements, calendar reminders, even voicemail files. Not in rage. In preparation. I had been humiliated, used, cast aside like a placeholder until the real party could begin, and I finally believed what I had tried so hard not to. They didn't want me for me. They wanted what I gave. And once I stopped giving, I stopped existing. The next morning, I woke up with one goal: end it. I didn't mean life. I meant the performance. The slow bleed. The sick cycle of manipulation disguised as family obligation. I wasn't going to play the quiet, dependable daughter anymore, the one who gets overlooked, overdrawn, and overwritten. I opened every bank app, every auto payment screen, every Zelle and Venmo history log. I unsubscribed. I blocked. I canceled. Rachel's rent payments, gone. Dad's recurring phone bill deleted. Mom's weekly grocery Instacart credits revoked. I even called Capital One to flag the card I'd once opened in Rachel's name and made monthly payments on just until she built credit. When they asked why, I answered plainly: because she committed fraud. And I let her. The agent on the line paused. "Would you like to file a report?" "No," I said. "I just want it closed." The final total, $41,872 over 7.5 years. I tallied it all. Rent, groceries, car repairs, emergency flights, surprise vet bills for a dog that wasn't mine, beauty school tuition that she never finished, birthday gifts, down payments on failed side hustles. Every cent I had handed over like tribute. Not out of generosity, out of fear. Fear they'd fall apart. Fear I'd be ungrateful. Fear that without my usefulness they'd leave. And maybe they already had. Later that day, I wrote 3 letters, one to each of them. Not to explain. Not to beg. Just to speak for once without getting interrupted, minimized, or guilt-tripped. To Paula: Mom, you taught me to be responsible, but you also taught me that love came with conditions. I had to earn my place. I've spent my entire adult life trying to be the kind of daughter you could be proud of. And I see now nothing I do will ever be enough. Not when you see love as something transactional. You lead. You let me believe you were struggling, and you took my money while planning parties without me. That's not just hurtful. It's cruel. I'm done being your backup plan. To Warren, Dad, I wanted you to be my protector. Instead, you became a warning sign. You taught me that silence is a weapon and that nothing is ever your fault. I've paid for your bills, your habits, your escape routes. You told me not to rescue you anymore, but you never once stood up for me. You laughed behind my back while drinking the wine I bought. That's who you are now. That's who I'm done supporting. To Rachel, you always knew how to charm people, but you never learned how to show up. I covered for you, lied for you, paid for you, and you called that love. You exploited it. You betrayed it. And when you thought I wouldn't find out, you bragged. You let strangers on the internet laugh at my expense. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just finished. Go build your own life now. I didn't send the letters, not right away. Instead, I printed them out, folded them into envelopes, and set them on my kitchen table like offerings at a shrine. I let them sit there for 2 days while I wrestled with every emotion on the spectrum: grief, guilt, fury, even longing. By New Year's Day, I mailed them. No return address, no tracking, just closure. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. No reply, no apology, not even a passive-aggressive emoji. It took me a week to realize something vital. They weren't shocked, because they always assumed I'd come back, that I'd fold, that I'd miss them enough to surrender. But I didn't. I missed the idea of family. Not them. The hard part wasn't saying no. It was saying never again. I got a new phone number, closed my old email, took a week off work, booked a cabin in Colorado with no cell service, and brought only two things: a journal and a playlist titled Finally Quiet. For the first time in a decade, I slept 8 hours without grinding my teeth. I hiked alone. I wrote letters to myself. I made hot tea and didn't have to reheat it because I wasn't putting out someone else's fire. It wasn't dramatic. It was peaceful. And in that quiet, I met someone, Camila, a woman from Santa Fe, renting the cabin next door. We shared a fire pit one night. She told me she hadn't spoken to her sister in 5 years, that it hurt, but she'd stopped bleeding for people who didn't stop to see if she was okay. We swapped stories like war vets. No pity, just recognition. That night, I wrote something in my journal that I hadn't dared before. Estrangement isn't cruelty. Sometimes it's the only form of self-respect left. When I returned to Austin, I planted lavender outside my front door. I repainted my guest room. I took Rachel's old boxes from my garage and donated them. I reclaimed space physically and emotionally. Then, in late February, the message came. A number I didn't recognize, but I knew the voice. It's your dad. Look, I know you've got your issues, but your mom's not doing great. Rachel's been struggling. I thought maybe you'd reach out by now. Guess not. Let me know if you're done for good. Just want to know where we stand. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the message for a full hour. I imagined calling back, yelling, crying, demanding answers. But what would I gain? A new round of gaslighting. More guilt. I whispered out loud. Where we stand is that you lied to me. All of you did. And then I deleted the message. Because when someone shows you exactly who they are, you stop asking for a different version. Spring came slowly in Austin that year. The trees outside my window began to bud in shy little bursts, like they were testing whether the cold was truly gone. I felt the same way, tentative, unsteady, but inching toward something softer. It had been nearly 3 months since I cut my family off. 3 months of silence. 3 months without unexpected Venmo requests or long-winded guilt texts. 3 months without anyone asking if I could just cover this last thing. In that space, something wild happened. I began to feel human again. Not responsible, not resentful, not waiting for the next blow, just human. I joined a pottery class on Thursday nights. Not because I had a hidden talent, but because I wanted to make something with my hands that no one else could critique, borrow, or destroy. I started going to the farmer's market every Saturday morning, chatting with the same cheerful vendor who sold lavender-infused honey and always gave Baxter a free treat. I reconnected with an old college friend, Jaya, whom I hadn't seen in years. When I told her hesitantly what had happened with my family, she didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "Dana, you've been bleeding in their name for years. You finally bandaged the wound. That's not cruel. That's survival." We ended up sitting on my back patio for hours, sipping wine and swapping stories. No one asked for anything. No one kept score. It felt so foreign it made me cry. That was the first time I allowed myself to mourn. Not the people, but the illusion. Because the truth is, when you estrange yourself from family, you don't just lose them. You lose the dream of who they were supposed to be. The version you fought for. The version you kept hoping would show up next time. And letting go of that dream. It hurts. But then the strangest thing happened. I started dreaming new dreams. Not about reconciliation, about freedom. I began to imagine a life not shaped by obligation. A life where I spent my money on things that brought me joy trips, causes friendships. Where I celebrated holidays with people who clapped when I walked in the door, not people who sighed and asked what I brought. Easter came and went. I didn't send a card, didn't get one. Mother's Day passed with no flowers, ordered no tight-chested phone call. Just a walk through the park, a new book, a bowl of fresh cherries. It felt so quiet it almost startled me. One afternoon in May, I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. No return address. I knew the handwriting immediately, Mom. The envelope was thick, cream-colored. I opened it slowly, my breath tight. The letter wasn't long, but it was heavy in a different way. Dana, I suppose I should be angry, but mostly I'm confused. I don't understand why you've cut us off like we were enemies. Yes, we joked around. Yes, we've had hard times. But we're family. Families don't give up. They figure things out. I raised you better than this. But if you're determined to erase us from your life, I hope you at least remember who was there when you needed rides to practice, who packed your lunches, who helped you learn to braid your hair. Maybe someday you'll come to your senses. Love, Mom, I read it once, then again. And on the third time, I realized what it was, a test. Not an apology, not accountability, not a question like, "How are you?" or "What do you need?" Just a riddle wrapped in guilt, hoping I'd bite. But I didn't. I didn't write back. I didn't call. Because I didn't owe them closure, wrapped in compliance. Instead, I did something different. That weekend, I hosted a dinner. I invited 5 people who had shown up for me over the past year. Jaya, my pottery teacher. Camila from the cabin trip, now a dear friend. My next-door neighbor Eli and his wife Mara. None of them shared my DNA. But every single one of them had looked me in the eyes and seen me. Seen you. We had grilled vegetables, homemade sangria, and laughter that curled up into the stars. No one asked for anything. No one kept tabs. No one demanded loyalty at the cost of my mental health. At one point, Camila raised her glass and said, "To chosen family, the ones who make room for the real you." I almost cried. And that night before bed, I lit a candle, opened my journal, and wrote something new. Maybe family isn't who shares your blood. Maybe it's who shares your burdens and doesn't use them against you later. That was the beginning of my quiet rebirth. Not flashy, not Instagram-worthy, just honest, earned, real. I planted tomatoes on my windowsill. I read poetry. I stopped bracing every time my phone buzzed. And when Father's Day came, I went to the lake alone, threw a stone into the water and whispered, "This grief belongs to me now, and I choose not to feed it anymore." The final test came on a Thursday morning in July. The sun was already glaring when I got out of the shower, and Baxter barked twice before I heard the soft ding of a new voicemail. No call, just the message. I stood in the hallway, towel still wrapped around my head, and listened. "Dana, it's Dad. I'm not going to do the whole speech thing. Just, things are changing over here. Rachel's back with that idiot. Mom's health is worse than she lets on, and I know you probably don't care anymore, but I figured you should know. I told her I was going to try one last time, to see if you'd even pick up. So, yeah, guess this is it, unless you decide to call." Then he hung up. No apology. No, "I'm sorry we lied." No, "I'm sorry we used you." Just a vague guilt grenade and a countdown clock. I sat down at the edge of my bed, still dripping heart thudding, and for one awful moment, the old Dana showed up. The girl who would panic. Who would start planning hospital visits, budget reallocations, and escape strategies for her sister. Who would sacrifice herself at the altar of being the bigger person. I remembered the live stream. I remembered the basket of gifts sent to me cold, jokes to me back. I remembered the years of being an emergency contact for people who only cared about their emergencies. And I remembered talking to a therapist in session during our second session when I finally told her about my family. All of us be shocked when you stop letting them. I deleted it, not out of anger, out of clarity, because I had learned something in these long, quiet months. Estrangement isn't a door slammed shut. It's a boundary finally honored. It doesn't mean you hate them. It means you no longer hate yourself for letting them hurt you. Later that day, I sat at a cafe with Jaya and told her about the message. She looked at me quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you feel guilty?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I feel free, and maybe a little sad that it took me this long." She nodded, took my hand. Better now than never. We clinked iced coffees in silence. That night, I walked Baxter under a warm purple sky. The cicadas hummed, and kids rode their bikes past me in lazy loops. The world had kept turning even after I stepped away from the center of someone else's chaos. And I was still here, whole, healing, held, not by bloodlines or obligation, by boundaries, by truth, by peace. And if you're reading this, wondering if it's too late, if walking away makes you cruel, if you're terrible for wanting out of the emotional trap someone calls family, I want you to hear this. You are not cruel for protecting your heart. You are not wrong for choosing peace over performance. You are not broken for walking away from people who only loved the version of you that served them. You do not owe anyone access to you just because they share your last name. You are allowed to rest, to rebuild, to be free. And if you never get the apology, if no one ever admits the harm, you are still allowed to heal. You're allowed to leave the room without explaining why the fire hurts. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. That's survival. That's love for yourself. Dana Monroe, a successful woman in Austin, spent years financially supporting her dysfunctional family, covering rent bills and emergencies while receiving little gratitude or emotional support in return. For years, she believed her help was saving them. But everything changed one Christmas Eve when she discovered her family had lied about canceling the holiday due to poverty. Instead, they secretly celebrated without her, and worse, mocked her generosity on a live stream she stumbled upon by accident. This betrayal became the breaking point. The next morning, Dana cut every financial tie, canceling payments, closing accounts, and reclaiming her autonomy. She wrote letters to each family member, confronting their lies and manipulation, then mailed them without expecting a response. None came. The silence confirmed what she already feared: she was only valued as a resource, not as a daughter or sister. Estranged, but no longer bleeding, Dana slowly rebuilt her life. She formed new friendships, cultivated small joys, and found solace in solitude. Over time, she grieved not the people, but the illusion of the family she'd hoped for. When a final voicemail arrived from her father, laced with guilt but absent of apology, she made the hardest and clearest decision to delete it. Dana realized estrangement wasn't cruelty, it was self-respect. She stopped expecting accountability from people incapable of offering it, and instead chose boundaries, peace, and self-love. In doing so, she built a new kind of family chosen safe and real. Her story is a powerful reminder you don't owe people access to your life just because they share your blood. Sometimes, walking away isn't the betrayal, it's the beginning of healing. For anyone struggling with toxic family ties, Dana's journey offers one truth. You are allowed to leave the room without explaining why the fire hurts.